point the finger too much.
Right.
Do you want to hold the CD, or would you like me to hold the CD?
You hold it.
All right. But you told me not to do this, right?
Yeah, you can't do that. Katie, would you mind if you took your gum out of your mouth?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Forgot about that. You know what? I'll just put it. It's okay. I'll just.
Here's mine. No. All right.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My scarf's okay in front of the microphone.
Well, as long as you don't rub the wrong. Yeah, it's good.
We all set?
Yep.
Hi, this is Britt with Real.com, and I'm here with kdlang.
K dot.
K dot.
Dot D dot.
Lang.
Lang.
.com.
Dot com.
And we are here in Seattle, where KD is performing the first night of the latest leg of the Invincible Summer Tour. And I suppose before we venture off and to talk about music, which is primarily what this discussion is going to be, I just want to get your thoughts on the election, given that it is now the day after the election.
Right. Well, I would like to I would like to congratulate my friend Al Gore on winning the 43rd presidential candidacy.
Right.
Congratulations, Al. Do it. God, please, God, please, God.
Yeah, exactly. That's way a lot of people feel.
Yeah, especially up here.
Yeah. Do you like Seattle?
I love Seattle. I love the whole West Coast.
Uh-huh.
You know, I lived in Vancouver for a long time and would come down to Seattle, but the whole West Coast, you know, I love the vibe up over here.
What's different about it than, say, the East Coast or the Midwest, or that you like so much?
I like the combination of sort of cosmopolitan, but sort of that element of bohemian.
Uh-huh.
I like that combination.
And do you find that is part of, like, Los Angeles, where you live now? And
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Well, the way I live in Los Angeles, yeah. I mean, there's obvious sort of broad ends of the spectrum in Los Angeles, which also makes it interesting. But I like the geography of Los Angeles. I like the desert, the hills, the beach,
Right.
sunshine.
The constant sunshine.
Yeah,
I miss it.
yeah.
I live up here.
Especially up here.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the record, Invincible Summer, which came out just at the beginning of the summer.
June, yeah.
And it's a little bit of a departure from previous records that you've had out, in that it's lush, sophisticated, and there's a really nice pop vibe to it that kind of harks back to a lot of the 60s music that was very popular, including, you know, Burt Bacharach, Mamas and the Papas, and
I like the Brazilian, and I remember my sister was 11 years older and listened to the 60s music, and that's when Girl from Ipanema, and, you know, that Brazil 66, Sergio Mendes 66, and, you know, that whole Brazilian influence in pop music was really exciting for me too, as a young listener, so I'm still into it. So yeah, all those influences plus Brazilian music.
So, you know, when I listened to it, and I read a lot of reviews about the record, and they've all been great, favorable, positive, but nobody's really mentioned the fact that it sounds like a Dusty Springfield record.
It does sound like a Dusty Springfield record, I think. I've been compared to Dusty a few times over the years, but you know, I listened a lot when Dusty died. You know, obviously those reissues that came out, and a lot of focus on her music at the time, and certainly that was influencing me, listening to those old records again in the Bacharach years, and just you know, like, she had a very sort of rich, warm voice, which is similar to mine. So
Exactly.
you know, the arrangements kind of are conducive to that sound. So
I'm just reminded of Dusty in Memphis when I listen to your record.
Yeah, that's a fabulous record.
Yeah, it really is. Tell me a little bit about the recording process for you. How does a song begin for you, and how does it evolve all the way to the recording process?
Well, initially what happens with me is I get a basic theme or a concept really of what I want the record to be, and it really stems from my emotional state, and also what's kind of lifestyle, what's influencing me in terms of my lifestyle, colors, foods, environments, even what I'm listening to. Those all come into play, and obviously, you know, living in California now and being in love, I'm in a very sunny place.
Right.
And, you know, Invincible Summer really stems from my sort of emotional transition and is different than the last few records, although I've always prided myself on making every record sound different. So,
how are you feeling differently in say the making of Drag or All You Can Eat or Ingenue?
I mean,
can you go back
they're
there? I mean,
oh sure, but they're all entirely different moments in my life. I mean, they're you know, huge representations of my emotional state. You know, they're especially All You Can Eat, Drag, or All You Can Eat, Invincible Summer, and Ingenue are huge autobiographical pieces, which, you know, over a 10-year span are vastly different. So, you know, All You Can Eat was a duality, and Ingenue was just, you know, like an unrequited longing romantic record, and Invincible Summer is almost the fruition of sort of the process of
right. All those
waiting
things
for
leading up.
love. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Tell me again, if you could elaborate a little bit more on the recording process, because I'm curious what happens when you go into a studio. Do you have a demo, or do you just go in and do you have lyrics and you just begin to work on songs, or?
Well, we usually start writing. Sorry, yeah, I really diverted from your question, but music comes first. Music always comes first. We start basically sketching out the basic overall vibe of the record, the elements, you know, the certain sounds that one would apply to the vision of the record, and so we start demoing. Always demo the music first, and really play around with, you know, different combinations of sounds, and then I sit at home with you know, 3 cassettes worth of music and start pounding away at the lyrical world, which is always arduous.
So it's usually the music that comes first.
Always, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're not one of those types of persons who or artists who comes up with lyrics and just keeps a book somewhere and.
Well, I do have a book of sort of stream of consciousness poetry, and I refer back to it because generally I write poetry more prolifically just before I write a record, so it is it is related to what I'm doing.
Right.
So I do go back to it and pick out sort of key elements that I think reflect musically where I went. So,
Right.
yeah, but it's not really like constructed. You know, it just kind of happens naturally.
Right. What gets you to that place?
I don't know. That is the magic of art. I don't
Right.
know. I really don't know. It's just moments. It's just the inertia of inspiration. I don't know.
And so there was a culmination of things really that happened over the course of putting together the seeds of this record. A whole bunch of things that kind of came together and just totally inspired the whole event.
Yeah. Yeah, you just, you know, really the momentum of writing just starts to gain, and you start getting visions and ideas, and you start, you know, like when Dusty died, those elements started to influence, and, you know, there's all of a sudden there's a VH1 thing on the Mamas and the Papas that starts influence. I mean, it's like a snowball, and
Right.
you just gather. It's like you're out nomadically gathering pieces for the puzzle, and
And they all just come together.
and they all just come together, and pretty soon you have 14 songs, and it's time to go in the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a luxury to be able to make records that way. I mean, thank God I don't have to worry about my next top 10 single, so I have the luxury of time.
Well, that's interesting that you say that. Do you feel pressure from the record company to create top 10 singles? I mean, much like contemporaries like Christina Aguilera or Britney Spears or NSYNC or whatever?
No, I was never signed with that with that intention. I was signed to Sire Records as a country punk artist at the time in '85, or '84. So, I mean, really, the definition of kdlang has been completely liberal.
Right.
But I mean, of course, I mean, it's just much easier to market a record when there's a strong single. Mm-hmm. Although that's never been a factor in my music.
You're lucky.
I actually am lucky, and the fact that I've survived 17 years in the music business without it
Right.
is I'm incredibly proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
That really stems from word of mouth and the strength of my live performances. And you know, I just, you know, I'm a singer. That's what I am, a performer. And I think, you know, that really is my strong point, and that can never be taken away from me.
Right. Speaking of performing, when I watch you, because I've seen you a couple of times, there's this energy that comes out of you, and this joy, and I've only seen it on Al Green's face and your face.
Good company.
It's just you just appear to be so happy that you're up doing this. Do you always feel that way? I mean, is
when I'm there, when I'm in it, I mean, the sort of the ascension to getting ready is always dramatic. I mean, it takes every ounce of every day, you know, all getting ready all day long. You know, that to be able to keep your voice at that standard every day is very, very hard. Mm-hmm. It's almost impossible. But when I'm up there and I'm warmed up and, you know, my voice is starting to open up and my body's feeling looser, I'm the happiest person in the world, because I am honoring my gift at that point.
Right.
You know, that's the best I am in life, doing what I do. You know.
Do you feel like you're always trying to, do you feel like you always have to try to win over an audience when you go out at first, or do you think it's just automatic adoration and everybody's just?
Oh no. But you know what? The thing is, it's kind of changed for me as I've gotten older, and I've you know, the experience and, you know, sort of the wisdom of 17 years in the music business. I used to, you know, like for the first maybe 10 or 11 years of my career, it was all about conquering, and now really it's about just the. I guess I've started to realize that it's really a gift, or not a luxury, but I can't think of the right word, but
a blessing?
It's a blessing to be able to go up there and sing. And no, I think rather than try to win them over, because I don't really see it as a polar kind of thing. I see it as they are a part of the show, I am a part of the show, the band is a part of the show, and we create the show together.
Right.
I'm just a part of, you know, I'm like the puck in the hockey game. I just get slapped around.
And there are the audience that likes to slap you around, and then the
Yeah.
band likes to slap you around.
Yeah.
And it's just this.
I'm just this
big fun
flying
game.
rubber, frozen rubber thing.
I want to go back a little bit about and talk about the recording process and working with the new producer,
Damien Lagassic, yeah.
Damien Lagassic, who comes from more of an electronic kind of background. Mm-hmm. What spurred you to work with that new genre of music that's kind of infiltrating the mainstream at this time? I mean,
Yeah. Well, obviously, you know, I'm not quick to jump on a trend, but after a certain while, and I feel out what is probably going to be a classic shift or a classic evolution in music, mm-hmm. I start to I try to sort of incorporate it. And I have to say that probably the biggest sort of element of me deciding that I wanted to go in that direction was probably the Air record, because I really, you know, Moon Safari came out like 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Really loved the sort of the marriage of classic sort of 70s big pop melodic sort of sound with, you know, vintage synthesizers and loops and stuff. So that was one of the first big influences.
Yeah, a lot of people point to that record as being very a turning point in their recording careers as they've, you know, have adapted to this new kind of sound.
Yeah.
Because
Because there's enough organic element there to feel still legitimate. You know, like I'm a singer. If I were a, you know, keyboard player, my music would be far more electronic, I'm sure. But because my you know, my priority is the voice, it's a very organic thing. I don't feel comfortable with surrounding it with stuff that's not really organic. I mean, it has to be a combination for me.
And because he comes from an electronic background, was there a lot of organic instrumentation that he used, or
well, funnily enough, he's actually there's a trend, at least in musicians and in producers, to go back, that are like already turning against electronica. And you know, at least the musicians I know are not wanting loops, are not wanting. They just want to experiment with the way sounds are recorded and the way people play, but they're really over loops and electronic stuff. So it's funny, but he's really you know, actually quite organic. I mean, like even on the new Madonna record, the song he wrote is one of the most organic sounding songs on the record. So, but his experience and knowledge of that world was something I really wanted to take advantage of. And I think because I want to update my sound, and I think that he did it in a real subtle way. I don't think he overproduced the record, and I think he just iced it really with a sort of a new touch, sheen. Yeah.
Do you have any fond memories of or bad memories of recording the record?
All my memories are fond because I wrote this record with my friends, the bass player and the drummer Dave Pilch and Abe Laboriel, and they're here on tour with me, and we recorded in a really beautiful low-key studio. Well, not low-key, but a really cool studio in LA that was, you know, had natural light and doors open, and I mean, it's just, those are the things that make me happy. So I did everything that made me happy, and so it was a great experience
all around. That's good, and it definitely shows in the record. I mean, there's a lot of potential singles, I think, here. I really like Extraordinary Thing a lot. And currently, the new single is Consequences of Falling, which is another great song. And Curiosity is another gem that people should definitely check out. Let's see. I guess I'd like to find out what you think about the new crop of music artists out there. I mean, do you relate to them at all? I
don't know who you're referring to, because there's a lot of new musicians out there.
The whole teen pop phenomenon. Obviously, you probably can't identify with it too much in the respect of the kind of music that they produce and put out, but on an entertainment kind of level, and also in a circus kind of level.
Well, to me, it really is exactly the same. It exactly parallels the Cyndi Lauper Madonna thing. I mean, it's no different, and it's just, you know, that I'm 15 years older than I was when it was happening the first time. So, no, to me, pop music is pop music. It'll always be there. It always will have a demographic of, you know, 8 to 15-year-olds, but no, the thing that I think really, the thing that disappoints me is the syndication of radio and television and all the media. I think that the loss of sort of, you know, sort of the genocide of these pockets, which I remember, you know, you'd go to Detroit and you'd hear a different sound than you would in San Diego.
Right.
I think that's what I miss, and I think that that's one of the things I lament. Also, the fact that fashion has completely annihilated what I used to think is one of the forerunners in fashion was musician style.
Exactly.
I think that's one thing that's missing, and also the fact that, you know, really that it's really about how skinny and how beautiful the artist is, and not whether they can sing. I mean, those are always the obvious kind of
darts to throw.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is that it's good because, you know, then there's people like me who's never depended on her body or her looks and always depended on my voice, and I'm still
You're still here.
making records.
So, what kind of advice would you give them to these younger acts to maintain a career of longevity? Do you have any advice?
No, because I don't know. I mean, it's a tough struggle for me every day. I can't, there's no way I could give advice about it because it's a completely unpredictable business.
Yeah. Have there ever been times when you have felt like giving it all up?
I think about it every day.
Really?
Yeah.
What about it gives you those thoughts?
Just, it's a
private life,
highly,
or-
well, no, you know, it's not even so much about that. It's just, it's a highly competitive business, and it takes so much effort to, I mean, even touring, you know, I lose money touring because I'm not getting the kind of radio support that one needs to tour. So, I mean, it's just a lot of work for. It's kind of like being a restaurant owner. It's really a labor of love. It's you do it because you love to do it.
Right.
So.
And you don't think that's ever going to go away?
I don't know. Like I said, I think about quitting every day. But then I get a rest, you know, I sleep for a couple weeks and I'm feeling all right. So I'm ready to go at it again, or a couple of years, as in the case of Invincible Summer. So. Right.
And if you were to give it up, obviously you've probably given some thought to what you might do otherwise. I mean, what would you do?
I don't know. I would probably have to downsize a great deal. Probably ride my motorcycle for the first year.
Right. Cross country or just California desert? Or?
I don't know. I would just have to see what happens. You know, I guess my interest, my second huge passion is cooking. So I would guess maybe go to cooking school or start a restaurant, or I really want to start a vegetarian cooking institute, which is something that is going to take 10 or 20 years in the process. So I would guess it would have something to do with the culinary arts.
So that's an interesting segue. We could kind of go into PETA a little bit, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Are you still, do you still have very close ties with that organization?
No, I don't.
Is there a reason why?
I don't believe that they're ethical.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still an animal rights activist. Obviously, I'm wearing felt Birkenstocks, so that's a telltale sign. Right. But no, I don't really necessarily agree with a lot of the practices of PETA.
Did you find that they might be a little bit too militant with their messaging, or?
No, I don't. Militancy doesn't really scare me. It's to me, my vegetarianism stems from my spiritual beliefs, and my spiritual belief, I guess, bottom line, is compassion for all living things, including human beings. And if people don't see your point of view, I don't believe in hitting them over the head until they do. Right. To me, it's about living an example and compassion and you know, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in but I'm glad, because I think they push the envelope. Like Chrissy Hine, we fight about this every time we talk. We fight for hours about this subject.
She's definitely a big mouth.
She's on the other side of the fence than I am. We fight about it all the time.
I love to watch her just because, you know, she really puts herself out there, and
she's passionate.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I do appreciate that they push the envelope. I just come from a different way of dealing with it, yeah.
Is there another organization that's kind of taken its place for that?
Well, I'm starting a church, actually, called the kdlang Pantheists for All Things.
Really?
No.
Okay.
But no.
And where will this church be?
Wherever it is.
Right.
It's a movable. It's omni. It's an omni church. No, I don't. I'm not a part of any organization right now.
Let me ask you about being a spokesperson for the gay and lesbian and transgendered community, do you feel that you have a responsibility being a public figure? Is that important to you?
Well, basically, what the approach I've maintained since day one, since I came out in '92, has been I'm happy to be open and to answer questions and to accept a certain amount of responsibility, but in no way do I represent the whole community.
Right.
It's a hugely diverse community, and there's no way I could ever represent the whole community.
Right.
I think in the long run, my experience with being out has been very good for me as a person. I think that it's made me be progressive in my thought and open and available and responsible to a certain degree, and I think that's made me a better person.
Do you feel like you are a role model to perhaps, maybe younger musicians who might be coming up, who might be gay or lesbian, transgendered, or, I mean, do you feel...
I would hope I would be more of a role model to people in general about the issue rather than just gay and lesbian people, because I think that, really, I think the issue now is not whether or not you're gay, it's about whether or not you're open.
And you can deal with it.
And you can deal with it. To me, it's really, I would rather be a role model to the subject being eliminated.
Right.
Than to be focused on.
Gotcha. We're going to wrap things up a little bit here, but a couple of real quick music questions. I just wanted to ask you, what song, what's your favorite song that you've never recorded?
Ooh, there's a lot of them. I think my favorite song of all time is Jane Siberry, The Valley.
Why?
I don't know. Just every time I hear it, it just direct to the heart and just kills me.
Do you ever perform it?
Mm-mm.
Just
No,
can't touch
because
it.
I think it's quintessential. I mean, I sing it in my car, but...
Right.
I don't know. I've often thought of doing... I might do it when I'm older. I might, assess my whole life of loves in terms of songs and do an album. But that song, to me, somehow really expresses what I feel in general.
Great. So definitely check out that track. We can find out what kdlang's all about. And the last question that I have is, we know we have a pretty good idea of who kdlang, the performer, is, but is there anything illuminating that you can present to the internet audience at home about Catherine Lang that we might not know?
Oh, there's thousands of things you don't know about me. No, I think that people, I generally think people don't know who I am. Just because I make records that bounce all over the place, and one minute I'll be wearing a suit and the next minute I'll be wearing, I don't know, like what I wore on All You Can Eat, overalls, jumpsuit, overalls from a construction site.
Right.
I mean, I think I'm probably funnier and more easygoing than people generally think about me.
Right.
But I'm kind of low-key. I am kind of quite calm.
I can feel that. I can sense that. And do you maintain that easily when you're on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some days I'm kind of grumpy and tired, but
Right.
I really like simple things. I walked around Seattle today just by myself and down to the market, and nothing makes me happier than to be able to do that.
Right.
Just spend the day by myself walking around. It's like one of my favorite things in life.
Mm-hmm. So it's the simple things.
Really, truly the simple things and nature.
Right. Okay, there you have it. If we could get you to do an ID real quick, yeah, that would be great. Or is there anything else that you want to add? Or?
No, but how do you want me to say it?
This is kdlang, and you're on Real.com? You're
watching.
watching. What's that?
You're watching me on the Real Guide.
Real
You're
Guide?
watching me on Real.com.
Real.com?
Yeah.
Hi, this is kdlang. You're online, Real.com.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Thank you, boys.
David, if you want to...
Thank you.
But